Welcome to position of the week 9. This position is from Prague Masters, played just a few days ago. White is Sam Shankland from United States and black is Abasov from Azerbaijan. Sorry if I mispronounced his name. It's move 41. Time control is just passed, and both players have just managed to complete their the time control. A few moves earlier, black was totally fine, but a few threats of knight c5 trapping the rook on a4 suddenly caught him off guard, and he's about to lose a pawn. In this position, and you should stop and have a think for yourself. In this position, Sam, he took on c3, which is possibly the most natural move in the world. And his opponent played rook a6 to get the rook out of trouble. I just noticed that rook takes a3 doesn't work, because no matter which rook black takes, white take the other rook. So he played rook a6, which is not bad in itself. Sam played knight e2. It is definitely a pawn up. It is possible here for black to fight for a draw, attacking the a3 pawn. Instead, Abasov played rook e7, and then came knight d4, rook e4, knight b5, rook e2, knight d3. And we can see black is getting kicked backwards. And at this point, white had 2 extra pawns, and black decided that was enough. A little disappointing turn of events for black, especially since there was some good chances to make a draw. For example, at this point, if black had taken his time, he might have worked out that after taking 2 times on c3 and playing king f5, his active rook and his active king is good enough to make the draw. The important point is, if white plays king f3, I should just say that, check, we just go back, and rook a5, the double a pawns are not better than the single a pawn, so black would have to return with rook c3, so it's just repeating the position. And if white plays the king out, which is the most natural move, black plays g5. This is a very common structure for black in rook endgames, and it is using the h4 pawn as a hook. Now, a hook is a pawn which we can use to create problems with. So here white has basically 2 unpleasant choices. The first would be to take on g5, and after black takes back with the pawn, later on he will be able to play h4 and create a pass pawn who would counterplay. Now, he doesn't need to queen this pawn, he just needs it to distract enough. On the other hand, if white is ever moving the king towards the queen side, which he would have to do to play for a win, black will take and play king g4 and attack this pawn, also creating himself a pass pawn. Either choice is actually highly unpleasant for white. Here's a pawn up, but it's not going to be enough to win the game. So if we go back and look at the original position, Sam made his move after, I think, 6 seconds, at least according to the website. And if we spend more than 6 seconds here looking for a move, you will find a good move. I normally teach to our students, and this includes Sam, that you should have at least 2 serious options on every move. If you cannot find 2 serious options on every move, that's okay. You should at least try to find 2 options. And here, if we look for an alternative for white, then a player like Sam will find it in about 6 seconds. But probably he spent his 6 seconds writing down his opponent's move and making his own move, rather than thinking about options. I also think this is a very good example of impulse control. It is after having played an opening that didn't give much of an advantage and been trying to create some threats and some pressure throughout the game. It's very easy to take this pawn and be happy. I won a pawn. It's something. When I talked to Sam about this, and he had just returned to his hotel and not yet checked the game himself. I said that he was quite sloppy at move 41, and he said, "Oh my God, rook d3," and he probably didn't need an engine to see it. He definitely wouldn't need an engine, but maybe he saw it without an engine. That's what I mean. And he said, "Oh, but knight takes c3 probably wins anyway," which I said was a lazy argument. It is a lazy argument, and he immediately conceded, "Yeah, of course. You should think and play good moves." And it turns out it actually doesn't win. But in this position, if he had played rook d3, it just wins. Now, you can probably have different variation here. I'm just making this up. I have not checked this at all with a computer or anything. But if we go here, and then now rook e1 check on next time, I think this knight looks to be in trouble. Or maybe the knight is better placed here. I would probably think so. Let's say we play rook here and check, and the king goes away. And now this pin is quite unpleasant, and we're attacking the rook. Or maybe even a little bit of a circus trick here, where we see that the black rooks cannot defend each other, and white wins. So after rook d3, the variation, I think, is sort of what you could expect. Is black would play knight away to a decent square, white would take, black has no alternative to take, and we see now again that not only has he lost the pawn in a much worse way and exchanged his good rook, the knights are still on the board, and the white knight is threatening to go to c5, where we see very quickly that the rook is running out of squares. The only thing I could see here was rook a6, knight c5, knight a4, and trying to get into the rook endgame we saw before. But this is sort of a little trick of the trade. But Vinnick said that knight endings are similar to pawn endings. And what he meant by that is that a small advantage, here an extra pawn on the queen side, is often enough to win the game. You don't need to have a big serious advantage. So knight endings are often easier to win than most other endings, with the exclusion of pawn endings. And rook endings, Tara said all rook endings are drawn. What he meant by that is not that they're all drawn, but that they have a big tendency to end in a draw. So here white will make a good exchange, and here, in order to make things work, knight b8 comes, and then knight c6. We will eliminate the a7 pawn. Black will have time to take the a3 pawn, but still, when we have the knight in a moment on a7, and the black knights will be on a3, we play b5, and we have a very strong pass pawn. Will we make it all the way to b6? If the black king goes to the queen side to free the knight to come out and deal with the pawn, otherwise the knight will have to stand and guard the pawn, the white king will come up and start creating damage on the black king side. Alternatively, the knight can be blocking the pawn. Let's say there's a pawn on later. Imagine other pawns gone on the queen side. There's a pawn here, and black knight is here. Then the white knight can come over and help the white king, creating damage on the king side, and black king won't be strong enough to defend against them, and the pawn will simply distract the black knight. Either way, this ending is a trivial win, and it would have been a trivial win for a player of Sam's caliber, and it's a shame he didn't win like this. It would have been cleaner, but his result in Prague was that of 5.5 of 7 plus 4 over a 7-round tournament, and he made a 29.01 performance. taking him from number 45 to number 31 in the world, which is still a little bit off his peak as number 24 in the world, but he's in very good form, and hopefully he will get a lot of chances to play in the next few months and return to his previous glory or beyond. I think he's ready for another jump forward. I think he was ready last year, but there was no chess, and now we'll see how he does. By the way, second place in Prague Masters was the Polish player Duda, who also jumped a few spaces up and is now number 18 in the world. His best was number 12 in the world, but that I think was very fleetingly. So number 18 in the world is a very good placement for him, and it was a great event for him. Other players didn't do very well. Czech number 1 Navarra did very poorly and lost the first 4 games before making 3 draws. But that's the way chess is. When there are winners, there are losers. But if you want to come to a place where everyone's a winner, then please join us at www.killerchesstraining.com. We have daily lessons, and you can have daily lessons with myself and Sam Shankland. We have Chibarinov, Mochilev, Julian Aizmendi, Renier Castellanos, Sabino Brunello. we have more coaches than that. We have Julian Aizmendi. Did I mention him already? Anyway, position of the week, number 9. It's a wrap. Sam Shankland winning against Nijat Abasov. Thank you.